I mean, maybe it gets a bit more political, this question, but I mean, in the end, there's been this big, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Twitter disputes between Bezos and Biden around taxing, increasing tax levels in order to bring down inflation, which sort of seems, yeah, what's your view on that? And you know, sort of, I'm enjoying that debate, to be honest. I just really think it's a good opportunity to see and have open discourse about how we can improve our economy and improve visibility and transparency into pricing and the operations of a Fed, of a government, and how tax does implicate
Yeah.
everybody. But it'll be interesting to hear your perspective
Yeah,
as
I
well.
mean the issue that's going on right now is there was uh, inflation in every type of asset. There was generalized inflation, right? And
Yeah,
everyone thought that they were really smart because
yeah,
they were quote unquote making money just by buying anything that's not cash, right? Holding cash. The issue
yeah,
now is with rising rates, you can stamp out currently in this environment risk asset inflation, but then what do you do about the consumer product inflation? And so I think there's this discussion of like every kind of lever that's on the table, like taxation. I don't think that's going to help personally, or like other kinds of policies to actually lower the price of consumer items. But I'm actually not sure. I mean, I'm not like a, I'm not the Fed chairman. I'm not Jerome Powell, and I don't pretend to know like all of
yeah,
this stuff. But it doesn't look very good
yeah,
to be honest. And I wish I could come here and be like, oh yeah, all everything's peachy. But it's gonna be hard, like because people will need
yeah,
these consumer items. They need oil, energy, all of these things, and there's a finite amount of ability to produce those things, right? And
yeah,
you can no longer print more money to spur the production and reinvestment of more of those consumer assets because you already did that, right? You did that during the pandemic, and so
yeah,
you basically burned that dry powder, right? That's done. So then now the only thing you can do is either tax more or tighten to get the risk asset inflation out of the market, but that actually stops reinvestment in production of consumer items, right? Because when interest rates are high and stuff, everyone wants to just sit on cash slash treasuries, right? And then
yeah, yeah.
it's that's the bad zone, right? That's like the stagflation corner where it's like you can't, you're boxed in, you don't know what to really do. So I'm curious to see what Jerome Powell kind of does in the next 6 to 8 months.
So we at Trueflation, we've aggregated more than, from 45 different data sources. We aggregate over 1 million different data points, so across 12 different categories of pricing, right? And those include commodities. Those include, yeah. So we can actually see that in the future, what, we have an index that provides us insight into that future around those commodities, so that we can then see what is it like, what's likely to happen. And the biggest changes that we've seen so far has been around electricity, energy, gasoline prices, transportation, but then
Mhm.
also food. And so food's been going up in prices, or shrinkflation is the other thing that's happening, where the size of the foods and the dishes and the packets that you get are being reduced at the same price or slightly marginal lower price. And psychologically, that seems to be working for the big brands. But then alternatively, down the road, we're seeing a rise in the sort of ground materials needed for food, right? Wheat prices are going up, and we're seeing a struggling in being able to keep up with the wheat production, especially given that 30% of wheat supply comes from Russia and Ukraine, and they're being sanctioned at the moment and going through war. And not only is the supply not getting to market, the planting and the sort of laying the seeds for next year is also going to struggle. And so you look at that, and where's that going to take us, and how do we manage inflation in an environment like that, and make sure food's on the table?